War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live here on YouTube and on Facebook. It is Thursday evening. We are here for another Auburn football preview and prediction show where we're going to be taking a look at Game 6 for the Auburn Tigers, taking it on the road finally to the Georgia Bulldogs, to Athens, I guess I should say, and be more specific, to Sanford. It's a hard thing to say especially you got Sanford Stadium. Auburn Tigers, Georgia Bulldogs, the Deep South's oldest rivalry. It's about to take shape once again. We will get into it. All the things that you need to know, all the things that maybe you want to predict, all the things that maybe you want to think about when it comes to how this thing may shake out for you, the Auburn faithful out there. I know, obviously, this may not be one of those where you're super excited about it, but we're going to do it and have fun with it anyway. That's why we get together in the first place anyway. So we'll get into it here in just a second. A couple things that you can do for us to start off each and every show if you don't already do it for us. Please start off by making sure you smash that like button. It's a huge help to us. Lets people know that we're live. Lets people know to come by and watch the show on the replay. You can do that on the replay as well for us. Smash the like button if you feel like we've earned that from you tonight. Also, you can share this out if you're watching live. Let people know, join in on the conversation. This is an interactive show on Thursday nights anyway. It's always more fun when we have lots of people giving their takes, offering their predictions and stuff like that. So we will get into several of those things tonight. So do all those things, and that will be how we go throughout this evening. We got a lot of fine people checking in with us tonight. Good to see so many of you already here early for the first part of the show. Thank you guys for being here early and ready to go at the start of this thing. So we'll let me give you the rundown. So some of y'all know how this works, but maybe some people for the first time don't know how this works. We are doing a full preview and predictions show. Please save your score predictions to the end of the show. If you can't stay the full time with us and you just want to share it because you've got to run, I understand that. That's fine. But most of the time when we do this, people are so eager to go, this is my score. Settle down. We'll get there. We'll get there. We got a whole show to go through. So we're going to start off by giving you some information from the athletic departments. We'll take a look. I'll share my screen. We'll look at ESPN. Just anything that we can kind of glean from all of that, that's going to help you come up with a more well-rounded score prediction. To be honest with you, that's the goal of this live stream, because I found in my life that people ask, what's your score prediction? Sometimes you're just throwing out an arbitrary number or group of numbers, and have you really thought about what is actually, have you seen from both of these teams? What might you see given that context in between these two teams? A lot of times you just throw that out the door, right? You go out and play the game, things happen. But sometimes we can find trends, things like that are very, very important. In fact, I'm thinking of one right now that I need to go ahead and start thinking about pulling up for you guys. And we'll have that hopefully up for you by the time I actually need to talk about it. But anyway, so that's the agenda tonight. We'll talk about that, and then we'll get into a predictions part of the show where we'll go offense, defense, special teams, and then finally our score prediction. That's what you can expect this evening. So let's get into it, you guys. Tonight, let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that you're going to want to know about this game, this matchup, these teams. A lot of that as people who mainly come here are Auburn people. They're going to want to obviously know more about their team, but we're going to at least talk about maybe some trends and things out there that may make you more encouraged, more discouraged. I don't know how it's going to work out for you, but we're going to try our best to provide you some context for all of these different things out there. So what we're bringing up on the screen right now for you is what's provided by the athletic department to the media. Yes, but you can find this as well on their website if you'd like to. I'm gonna have to take a few sips tonight because my throat's got a little scratchiness to it. I don't think I'm getting sick again, but you just never know. Got to always be careful. So this is available if you go search for it. It's kind of a hard search. If you go to like the game matchup on the website, they usually have like a notes page. That's usually where you can find it. All the stuff that I have highlighted here is what we've highlighted. This doesn't mean it's the absolute most important information. These are just things as I was reading through today that I felt like were going to be very important factors either to the game or just significant about knowing the history, the matchup, all that stuff. Because we are talking about the Deep South's oldest rivalry. which means this has got a lot of history and this has got a lot of significance to it. So let's talk through some of this. We got a few through to go on Auburn's side. We'll look at a few of UGA's, and then we'll look at ESPN's stuff as well. Some of it may be repeat, but I think there's each of those things. There's a few things. All right, we know the game's being played, obviously, this Saturday the 5th at 2:30 p.m. Central Time on ABC. Athens, Georgia, Sanford Stadium is the location for this particular game. Isn't it weird to be on ABC all the time now? That's just weird to me. And I've yet to be able to watch a game on TV because I've been at the game in the stadiums yet. Currently, Georgia leads the series 64-56 to 8. Used to be in Auburn's favor, and that has been slipping every so often, slowly but surely. Believe it or not, Auburn still leads in Georgia because they didn't have a lot of success for us with us there until recently. But that could at least be tied after this matchup. So there's some significance there as well. And you can see the last result which was a mighty, mighty Georgia team nearly got upset by Auburn in Jordan-Hare last year. Was there for that. What a game that was. Which should go to show you that you still go out and play the game and see what happens. Don't ever count anybody out just right off the bat. You can see rankings and records. Obviously, we're all familiar with Auburn's right now, where Hugh Freeze stands at, where Kirby Smart stands at, and he's ninth all time, I guess, at Georgia, maybe. Is that really? Is it ninth all time? That's interesting. Anyway, doesn't matter. Just noticing that in the notes right there. And they're currently ranked 5th overall in the AP and the coaches poll. A couple of things to note here. There's the all-time record for Auburn in road openers. This is our first road game, 83, 42, and 6. So a pretty good clip there. Tigers have won 12 of their last 20 on the road openers. The Tigers also 46, 39, and 6 all-time in SEC road openers and have won 20 of their last 28. So the history is there for Auburn to pull off the win here, but the context of the game is going to be what really provides all of that when we talk about that. The Bulldogs have won 18 of the last 23 games. So when you look at that score, that series record, that's what you really have to blame for it. 18 of the last 23. That is not a good clip. Auburn is 17, 24, and 1 against ranked Georgia teams all time, 8 and 9 in Athens. So pretty even success, 50-50 shot against ranked Georgia teams in Athens. The series is older than Georgia Tech, 116 games, and Alabama and Auburn only 88 games. A lot of people don't know that. This is the 129th, I think, meetup of Auburn and Georgia. A lot more information you can glean from there. Okay, stuff about Auburn. We still lead the country with 10 players who have caught a touchdown pass this season. Very important note for our offense to remember that. It's the first time since 2019 and the second time overall that we will not have a home game in October. That's going to be significant for the results of this season. It's also the first time since 2019 the Tigers will play 3 straight SEC road games. What a year. What a year this is going to be. The Tigers have thrown a touchdown pass in 13 straight games. I think that's important. With that, the longest streak is 15 straight home games. So I think it's important to note that Auburn's on a trend right now of being able to throw at least one. So remember that when we get to predictions portion of our show. I think that's going to be very important for those of you that are out there going to be wondering what you should think about. There's some stats on Keandre Lambert-Smith, how well he's doing, things to keep in mind. Auburn also leads the SEC and ranks 2nd nationally in yards per completion. As we talked about a lot post-game of Oklahoma and several other games, Auburn's on this trend of doing very well offensively, but still not being able to win the game. So there's obviously got to be other factors for it. Turnovers have been a huge factor of that. Not getting off the field on 3rd down is a huge factor. Those are obviously major reasons for that. And the Tigers rank 5th nationally in net punting and are one of 3 FBS teams with a negative punt return yardage allowed. I think that's, allowed for opponents. So something significant to keep in mind as well. Let's keep moving forward here. We won't spend as much time on all these things. And I highly encourage you guys, if you need to, you can pause or come back and pause on these if you'd like to look at them in more detail. I think it's showing up pretty well on the screen with the new resolution level they have put us up on. If you guys ever can't see these, let me know and I'll reassess how we do this. But I think you can see it well enough, especially if you pause it. But you can see some of the record stuff there for the 2024 season freeze era. But at the bottom here is some interesting things to note of some things you may want to look at about when this happens. What's Auburn's record this year under freeze? So, for instance, like one of the things that kind of stuck out to me is when we win the turnover battle, we're 3-3. There's literally, if we don't win the turnover battle, we won some games. We do win the turnover battle, we've won some games. Hey, there's our good friends over there. It's good to see you. Thanks for. I was wondering if we get to see you this week. We're talking about the matchup a little bit, and we're going to get to some preview and predictions here in a little bit. But thanks for hanging out with us today. Let's see here. A couple other things, maybe if you want to pause and look at the screen. I don't want to bore you guys and go through all those different things, but this is from the Auburn Athletic Department. When this happens, what's Auburn's record? So some things to keep in mind if you're interested in looking at a few of those today. There is Auburn's depth chart. Not anything really new to talk about. While Peyton appears to be the starter, it is still listed as the or situation, which would indicate a very short leash. And I'm not even certain that they've really messed with this one, to be honest with you, the last couple of weeks. So I don't know that there's anything significant to note, but if you want to look at it, you can pause the screen, go back and do all those different things there. There's your series history. We've talked about it a little bit already. Series at Auburn, at Athens, neutral sites, all that good stuff. The Deep South's oldest rivalry. A lot of history, a lot of things to talk about. Hugh Freeze versus Georgia is 1-2. So he's beaten them while at Ole Miss and also lost to him while he was here and at Ole Miss as well. I would assume it's Ole Miss unless he played at Liberty. Point is, he's beaten him at least once before. I don't know exactly where that is. Kirby Smart, 8-1 since he's been at Georgia playing against Auburn. So there you go. Down at the bottom of that page, you're also going to find something that we looked at often. Several other pages are going to have this too. They're going to have the points per game, allowed, all that kind of stuff. When I was looking at this earlier, very similar-ish, like when you look at points per game for Auburn, points per game for Georgia, what they allow per game. Auburn allows a little bit more. Georgia's probably would be a lot less if it wasn't for that Alabama game. And then you can kind of see who the leading rushers are, who the leading passers are, the receivers, all that stuff. Big names that we know for us, Hunter Thorne, Brown as well, Keon Lambert Smith. Simmons has worked his way up into those tops of our receiving cores, our top tacklers. Jaron Thompson has really solidified himself as a safety up there. And Dorian Mausi has also solidified himself up there with McLeod. We knew McLeod was going to be there tonight. I want to give a shout out right here. Great to be here. Always a pleasant time. Let me know if I can do anything for it. As always, it's right back at you. I will say this. I did mean to reach out to you guys this week to see if we could do a show together, but schedule just got a little bit busy. Well, how about this? I've been recovering from 5 straight traveling weekends. So I took it easy, but I also was very busy this week. But we will definitely catch up again in the future and do some more stuff. All right, so look at all those different things. Freeze the screen if you need to for yourself. If you're interested in looking at those a little bit more in depth, we got a couple more things we want to get to because we want to get to the predictions part of our show here. I think I have one more page, maybe 2 more on the Auburn side of things before we look at some Georgia things. Career stats versus Georgia, if that's interesting to you. Obviously hard to look at Brian Battee's name being on there with him having his season ending issue and injuries, all that stuff, but wish he was still here hanging out with us and performing. Was glad he's gotten a lot better. But you can see how everybody has performed in each category over time. Jarquez is 29 attempts for 97 yards, so a 3.3 average. Not great. He has scored a touchdown against them. And he's gotten, 3 cracks at him? But he was only, I'm trying to think through that a little bit, actually. I think, I'd have to remember that. I have an update for you on that comment. We'll have to catch up sometime. I think some of the chat know as well, but I appreciate that. Let's keep moving here and go to what should be. Oh, that might be the last page altogether. So freeze the screen if you need to, if you want to look at how everybody's performed for Auburn against Georgia, those that are here currently. So here we go. This is Georgia stuff. This is straight from their website, things that you may want to look at. Again, some of these things are going to be repeats, but I did want to look at them at least and talk about talk our ways through them a little bit. I did highlight this. I like that they had the score by quarter for Georgia and Auburn. Now, again, this is not against each other, but you can at least look at trends and say, okay, how has Auburn been trending in this part? How has Georgia been trending in this part? If you look at it, Auburn's trending pretty well in the first quarter, pretty well in the second quarter, and it's pretty even across the board. Whereas Georgia has not trended well in the first quarter, but subsequently gets better and levels off in the third and fourth quarter. Most of their points are coming in the third and fourth. What does this tell me? Score fast, score early. You might have a shot if you can hold Georgia at bay. Auburn has scored 167 points this year to Georgia's 129. So Auburn's got the advantage there. Keep in mind, we're playing at their place this go round. Again, more things that you can freeze screen if you want. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit and look at some of the things that I found interesting from their pages. We'll keep moving here. I highlighted this, their offensive numbers. They're averaging 32.3 points per game, 52nd nationally. That's a little bit surprising to me that they're that. I'll call it low, but I don't mean that as like it's bad. I mean, they're still having success, but 52nd overall is a little bit low than I thought it would be. They've also outscored people 129 to 50 to 129 to 59. And then you can see their explosive plays. Their longest rush has been a 45-yard by Trevor Etienne. Duh. The longest rush by an opponent has been by Jalen Milroe. Duh. The longest completion by a Georgia person is 67. Beck to Bell, and then longest completion by opponent has been Milroe to Williams of 75 yards. Somehow I don't know that we're going to be able to beat that, but you never know. They have KLS and Peyton Thorne have hooked up on some pretty beautiful passes here. So we'll see if that happens again in this particular game, or whoever goes out there at quarterback for Auburn, if it gets as a swap that happens. I thought this was interesting. Their scoring drives in 2024. Not a lot of success when they've had a lot of drives, 71 to 80 yards, but none of them have resulted in a score. Obviously, the majority of their scoring plays have happened really from 40 yards in. So what does this tell me? Make Georgia even at home, back them up, win the field position battle, and you've got a shot. If we just talk about it within this particular context. Number of plays with a scoring drive. You can see there how it all breaks down as well. Touchdown drive, possession times when they possess the ball for 4 minutes. That's the highest point with which they've had success. So 4 touchdowns when they've had it from 3 to 4 minutes. All good information. I thought was kind of interesting when I was like scouring through their different pages. All right, we got to hustle here. We still got a few things to get through, and we got to get to predictions time. If you want to look at how things have gone by starters per game, there you go. Bell is a wide receiver I think you should probably pay attention to. He started every game thus far. Yes. Beck, obviously, running back. Robinson started the first game, but Etienne is still there. It's definitely a name that you should be familiar with in college football, whether you're talking about Travis Etienne or Trevor Etienne. It's very well-known name now. And then some of their names, it's terms of Mondon, I think, is the one who is hurt and will be out of this game, is what I think the report was. Let's see how many more pages we got to go through. Let's just skip through them real quick. I hate to not at least show them to you so you can make the decision if you want to freeze frame or not. Top rushers have been Frazier and then ETN. The rest of the 3 games, obviously Beck is their top passer. Top receiver has been Smith and Lovett. So I told you to pay attention to Bell, but Lovett and Smith are obviously receivers if they're not hurt as well. I'll need to go look at that particular thing. And then I don't think I highlighted on this last page. I may have actually not even put it on there. There it is in case you want to freeze frame. Okay, so that is all of the stuff from the athletic departments. Let me clear my screen so I don't get overly confused and what's going on here. Let's talk about ESPN. We'll look at what they say, what people are saying about it. If you look on the matchup, as I scroll down to it, you will find that 91% of people believe Georgia will win this game. Probably not a bad percentage there. Peyton Thorne, obviously, versus Carson Beck. You can look and compare the stats, take away a few interceptions. Peyton Thorne's probably beating Carson Beck in all categories. Jarquez Hunter is obviously having a much better year than ETN, but it's still not an amazing year, but he's having pretty good success. So I think a lot of people would like to see us get the ball to him. Compare Keandre Lambert-Smith to their best receiver, Smith. So what do we talk about with all of these things? What's the main point? Auburn's got the weapons. Auburn's got the offense. Can they take care of the ball? Can they win the time of possession? Can they win the field position battle? Football is a very simple game when you get down to it. If you can do the little things right, you will put yourself into position to win the game, believe it or not. And you can see the rankings there for the SEC. Auburn finds itself down on the bottom with Mississippi State. That's tough. That is real tough. And our last couple of games for everybody, Auburn's Oklahoma, Arkansas, New Mexico, Cal, and A&M. They played one less, having played Alabama, had a tough battle with Kentucky on the road. So they've been tested, Tennessee Tech and Clemson. So there you go. So keep that in mind when we were talking about some of those stats and things like that. We have one more game to compare, to analyze, to them only having played 4 with our bye week coming up next week. I'm sure after this physical game, it will be a much needed rest for everybody. All right. I think that is good enough for all the information out there. And if there's something that I need to go back to or something like that, we can. But for the sake of time, and I know you guys are ready for this part of the show, let's get into it and let's talk about our previews and our predictions part of the show. Now, most of you know how this works. Kyle had done his due diligence and flipped over here for you guys, so you don't have to see that switching over. We go through offense, we go through defense, we go through special teams, and this is the part of the show where you get to interact and give us your takes. So we're going to start off currently with a kind of a test question. Will you take, and I think I asked this incorrectly last time, the spread is currently, it's gone down. It was 24. The spread is 22 in Georgia's favor. Will Georgia cover that spread? 22. It's gone down by about 2.5 points since I checked on it earlier today. Yes or no? This is just a test run. This isn't you predicting your score or anything like that. This is just getting y'all used to typing in the chat and ready to roll. Will Georgia cover that 22 points in this game? Meaning, will they score more than 22, a margin bigger than 22 on us? A lot of no's to start off. 1 yes. 313. I'm shocked that that's coming from you. I'm shocked. I thought you've been one of our like overly, I feel like you've been one of our overly positive guys. Has you been beaten down that much? But there you go. That's just a test run for you guys to start off the show about our predictions. And we'll just start there with that. All right, let's start with offense. Again, hold all your score predictions to the end of the show. But for this particular thing, starting on offense, I want to know from you, this is your prediction for this particular thing. How many passing yards and how many passing touchdowns will Auburn have in this game in Athens? How many of those? Keep in mind, we talked about in pre-show that Auburn is on a streak of 13, I think is what it was, 15 games in a row of scoring a passing touchdown. So the trend would say there's at least one. How many more do we have? Passing touchdowns, passing yards. I don't care who you think the starting quarterback is or should they be. We're just talking about how many does Auburn score in this game. You say since June, you don't think the Dogs cover. Could be a little, I forgot to mention this in the first part of the show. It could be the fact that y'all made us homecoming. It's a little karma coming your way, but I don't know. Let's see here. Neil said 240 and 1 touchdown. I had a feeling you probably meant 1 touchdown. But Peyton goes to 80 for 3 touchdowns, 140. Dalton's a little bit lower end. Okay, there we go. So we're kind of spread all over the place. There's some of you that are a little bit more bullish on that. And sorry, Rocky. Fortunately, we're going to have to let you go for the stream, buddy. We ain't going to be putting up with that tonight. That's just not even necessary. This is stupid. I knew somebody couldn't hold themselves in. 272, 282. Neil thinks that Peyton plays angry. This could be a good thing or a bad thing, because when he's unsettled, and whether that means in a good way or a bad way, he's taken a few risks, all that things. Under 250, 215, 2 touchdowns. I will say that we throw for 2 touchdowns, and we throw for 210 yards. I think that's a pretty modest day by what Auburn is currently doing. I don't think we'll have a ton of success, but I think we'll get something done in that category. So I think 2 passing touchdowns is what I'd like to predict. And keep in mind, when we go through this, if you realize that you've said more passing touchdowns or more of a certain category or something, and you want to change your score, that's fine. I often do it. It's just kind of we're talking through it at the moment and think what you do. A couple of y'all are behind in the chat too, and make sure you refresh your streams, especially if you had one of the ads pop up, because some of y'all stuff is coming up real late if you want to be included in the discussion part of that. All right. Next one. How many rushing yards and touchdowns for Auburn versus Georgia? How many rushing yards and rushing touchdowns for Auburn versus Georgia? This is something that I think a lot of people want to see. A lot of people want to see the ball handed off to Jarquez, Damari, Jeremiah Cobb, whoever, control the clock. And think back to what we talked about too. You probably want to run the ball so you can control the clock a little bit and control the field position. And so even if you don't complete the drives, hopefully you can push it up enough to the midpoint of the field. If you have to punt, you're winning that position battle, which when we saw some of those stats, led you to believe that Georgia tends to not have a lot of success from that. So how many rushing touchdowns, how many rushing yards? All right. I think this was part of it. 180 and 1, 230 and 3 touchdowns, 250 and 2. You know what? I changed my mind about the spread. Rethink. See, this is why we walk through all the different options that you have out there, because we want you to be able to think through some of these things, because sometimes I think people will realize, wow, okay, I haven't thought about it from that angle, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing for your prediction, right? I think it's something that's helpful to walk through. I think for Auburn to be successful, they've got to have a minimum of 2 touchdowns. I just don't think they're going to do it. I'm going to say 1 touchdown. And I think it'll be a variety of rushing yard spread. I just get the feeling that there will be a heavy emphasis on Jarquez Hunter. However, they won't find as much success as normal. And then we're going to have a lot of people pulling out their hairs like, we got what we wanted, but we didn't provide the rushing attack. So I'm going to say probably somewhere in the 150 range, but that's a combo of, Jarquez probably getting, 60, 70, which wouldn't be a horrible day, but it's not what we would be looking for. Damari getting, 20, 30, whatever. Peyton probably is going to be running a lot in this game. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I've got a prediction coming in from our Georgia friend as well. All right, your next one. How many sacks will Auburn allow to its quarterbacks, whoever it is, in this game? This is going to be huge. Drive stallers, drive ruiners, more opportunities for Georgia to have the ball. Who or how many sacks will Auburn allow in this particular game? I feel like I haven't looked at the last game stats recently, but I feel like we did an okay job with this until the end of the game. When we were kind of frantically trying to throw the ball, I think we have 2 sacks in a row, but you're trying to give time for your people to get open. But how many sacks in this game? So predictions flying in. I don't see anybody less than 3 right now. 4 sacks, 1 per quarter. 2, I think PT will escape a few sacks. So then they wouldn't be sacks. So just the 2 then. I think what we've seen a lot happen is Auburn find itself, even if it's in a position to compete or win at the end of the game, they don't thrive well, especially on the road, probably in that desperation mode. Thus, I think a couple of sacks are going to tilt this number upwards. So I'm going to go with 5. Probably 2 of those are very late, just like they were in the last game. And I think, probably I could see a sack happening on the first drive. I could see another one happening, before the half, and then another one happening in third down, the third quarter. So there you go. There's several sacks there. How many? Oh, that's not the next one. Oh, yeah, it is. How many? Okay, this is where we're going to get. Folks, hear me now. Be on good behavior. Don't give our Georgia friend who's here more fodder than he needs. How many turnovers does Auburn have in this game? Don't be picking on folks more than you need to. You made your point about it. But how many turnovers, if you want to break it down into interceptions and fumbles, and do they come from mainly the offense? Is there a special teams fumble? How many turnovers in this game? We limited it to 1 in the last game. Man, my throat. How many turnovers in this game? Y'all are some low numbers. I'm surprised, to be honest with you. Only 1 sacks. Okay. That's a little late on that, but yeah. All right. We've got numbers coming in on sacks 0, 1, 2, 1, 2. I was about to say 2 INTs, 3 here. I think we're going to throw an interception. I truly do. We just have to assume that at this point. And I think it'll be Peyton, obviously, because he's going to be out there starting. He's never played in Athens. So I think Peyton's going to throw an interception. I do think that we're going to get a fumble. Unfortunately, probably somewhere we're really surprised from, whether it's on special teams or it is a wide receiver toting the ball. Like, say we make a big play, a big pass down the sideline, and he cuts back in, and then as he's tackled, fumbles the ball and squirts as we're going in to drive and score. That just feels like that would happen to Auburn this year. So I'm going to say 2, 1 fumble, 1 interception, because this is the year of all of that. All right. These are probably going to be somewhat easy questions, these next 2, but I want to see if anybody wants to offer anything in difference. So I need a last name. Who will be Auburn's top rusher in this game? I know what you hope it is, maybe, but who will be Auburn's top rusher in this game? Is it as simple as Jarquez Hunter? Is it Peyton, who used his legs a lot more last game, either by choice, by design, whatever? We do know that is an element of Peyton's game that Hank does not have as much. So it obviously brings him into the conversation a little bit. So Dalton thinks Thorne. Alston again. Has Alston been the leading rusher before? Interesting. Thorne. It's an easy question, but I always like to ask it just in case somebody. I think if Peyton Thorne's starting, there's at least a conversation between the 2 of them, because I just have this gut feeling that all these people that have been talking about how we need to utilize Hunter more, you're going to see in this game why that hasn't been happening, because we've gotten lucky a few times and we've provided some holes for him to run through. And he is one heck of a back. He is. But that's there it is. All right. So who is going to be Auburn's top receiver in this game? Again, based on what we've currently seen, we talked about it in the first part of the show when we were looking through stats and stuff like that. KLS is leading the way. That's Keandre Lambert-Smith. He has been such a joy to watch. Is it him this game? But you got to think about it this way too. I'm not saying he's not dominant, but the more he continues to show that he is the guy for Auburn, the more he's going to be continuing to be keyed off it. So is it a guy like Malcolm Simmons that's going to be continuing to rise up the ranks? Is Cam Coleman back to fruition? Like, is he a guy that's ready to step up finally, at like a lot of people thought he might, and take over this wide receiver room? Is it someone we're not talking about? Don't think I would see very many other names other than what I'm seeing here. Lambert, KLS. We did get one Simmons. I'm sorry, I just coughed right into the mic there. I got a Coleman there. He thinks it'll be one of the true freshmen. So you're talking either about Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson. Bryce Kane has not seen a lot of time outside of that. I don't think Perry Thompson is hurt. I just think he hasn't found his way onto the field yet as much in the first games. And I think some people are having a hard time reconciling with that. That just may not be. He's earned the right to be out there as much. People wanted Malcolm out there more, and he showed that he deserved it. Thus, he's probably eating up some of that time. Big play, Dre. I like that. I hate to be boring, but I got to think it's going to be Keandre Lambert-Smith. Until people stop him, I'm going to probably have to say that it's going to be him. Cam Coleman's not a bad idea in that front. All right, this is again one of our viewer requested additions, and I think this is a good one to add for Auburn, especially in this game. Auburn's offense. What will be their third down success percentage? How often? So if they have, let's say, 10 third downs, what's your percentage of how many of those they get? Can you sustain a drive? Can you not put your offensive line in a position to where they have to prove they can win a 4th and 1 battle? We got some pretty favorable ones, I believe, last time we asked this against Oklahoma, but because that was at home, what say you all now? Kind of all over the place here. 6 out of 13, very specific. Thank you for that. 40, 58, 30, 47, 75. And we're getting them all over the place. A lot of you are, and I know we're an Auburn show, so obviously I think we're going to be a little bit more orange and blue glassed here. I think it'll be just a hair, and I mean a hair above, not even 51%. It'd be like 50.5. I think when they do find success on third down, it will be in the second half of the game, which is kind of my fear and how I see this going, and which is the opposite of what you want based on those stats that we saw, that you want to score. Auburn can score early in their games that they played, but you want them to, and Georgia hasn't as much. I don't know if we're going to be able to take advantage of that. So there's a bunch of predictions for you to look at. All right, that's offense. Again, we didn't probably cover every angle that we could, but I wanted to walk through those. Let's talk about defense now. Defense, how many passing yards and passing touchdowns for Georgia in this game? How many passing yards and passing touchdowns for Georgia in this game? I'm going to look at something while you guys are thinking about that. Voice gave away there for a second. Again, their leading receiver is Arian Smith with 274 yards. Carson Beck has thrown 10 touchdowns for 3 interceptions. Pretty good ratio. Only had 4 sacks on him. His rating is 154. I don't know if that lets you think about that in any way. Makes you feel a certain way about it. Got some predictions coming in here. Pretty high for everybody. I think it's probably safe to assume they're going to have some success throwing the ball at home versus Auburn. And I think whether this is because you're talking about it being because of Auburn, because it's at their home place, you recognize one of those two things is going to come into factor, right? Auburn's weak point, if there is one this year to talk about, has been their young defensive back group. Now, that being said, I think there have been improvements in that area. You can help them out a ton by getting after Carson Beck. We saw him, get rattled a little bit last game. And it's at their place, though. But rattle the kid. Don't let him sit back there, have time. Surely you think, Georgia's recruited well. They're going to have good offensive linemen. It's going to be tough. A lot of you had it on the higher 200s, 300s. I will say that we're probably looking somewhere in the 280, 290 passing wise for at least 2 passing touchdowns. I'm going to say that I'll say 290 for 2 passing touchdowns. Auburn has to control it in one of these areas, though, if they're going to have an opportunity to win the game. All right, how many rushing yards and how many rushing touchdowns will Georgia have in this game? Meaning, how many will Auburn give up to each of those? I want to go back and see if I can look up something for you all while you're thinking about that. You know, they changed the way that this matchup thing happens on ESPN, so it's not as doesn't have as some of the things readily that I used to have on there. But let's see what you guys are saying. 130 and 1 touchdown. 160, 150, 2 touchdowns. Okay, Neil. 170, 180, 2 touchdowns, 153 touchdowns. So not a lot of yardage on the ground, but a lot of touchdowns. If Georgia's able to do this, I don't care how much yards they get 3 rushing touchdowns. That means that either they move the ball passing and then run it in. You have 3 rushing touchdowns. We're going to be in a world of hurt. And that could be the difference in the game. I said 2 passing touchdowns. I'm going to say at least 2 rushing touchdowns. And I'm going to give them a little bit more credit at home. I'm going to say 170. So if you combine my 2 predictions there, you're definitely in the 450 plus yardage range that Auburn would have given up to Georgia at home, which is not going to be what you wanted. I don't know if we brought that one up there, but I think 2 minimum rushing touchdowns, and I also said 2 passing touchdowns. So not saying that's my score, just saying that's kind of what I'm feeling about as we're talking through this. I truly don't know where I'm going to go with my score other than I know what the results, the ultimate result is going to be, at least in my mind. It doesn't have to be your opinion. Who's Auburn's top tackler going to be in this game? Your top 3 choices based on what we looked at the numbers a little bit ago were Jalen McLeod. You've got also Jaron Thompson, the safety. You've also got Dorian Mausi, who has made a name for himself several times last games. He's had more of a dynamic playmaker than I kind of originally thought he would be. So your easy answer is probably who's leading the boards right now for us. But remember, Keldrick Falk's been having some good times as well. Maybe it's Eugene Asante. What do you guys think? Who's Auburn's top tackler in this game? We got a couple for Falk in early. McLeod, remember it's spelled the other way, but it's fine. Dorian Mausi, Falk. I think if Keldrick Falk, it has one for Asante, has a really great game for Auburn in this game, meaning +6 tackles, we're going to have pretty good day. So you think safety Thompson, Jaron Thompson is probably not a bad pick because as we've kind of predicted here, you're going to be getting into our secondary a little bit, which means he's going to have to making some tackles. However, what I will say is a little bit deceptive about that. You would assume that if your safeties, your cornerbacks are leading in tackles a lot, that means that we're getting into the above the linebacker, the front 7. But Jaron Thompson has been used a lot coming up and making plays. And he has been very successful at that. So it's a combo of both, maybe, but kind of all over the place there. Some of our regular people for predictions there. How many? Okay, we combine all of this together because as I've talked about, this is just, it takes too long if we spread all these out. But however you want to explain it, if you want to do it, tell me it in this order. That's fine. It is easy for me to read it that way. How many sacks? How many fumbles? And how many interceptions will Auburn's defense have against Georgia? If you just want to tell me one of them, that's fine. There's no really good way to do this because we have to kind of combine them for time's sake. How many sacks? How many fumbles? How many interceptions will Auburn have in this game? They're at home. Hopefully that means, well, we hope it means they get rattled for some reason. But you would think as a Georgia fan, they're probably not going to get rattled too badly in the sack category. Auburn has to create turnover opportunities to win this game while limiting theirs. I will go out on a limb and make this prediction. If Auburn does not win the turnover battle, they will lose the game. I don't think that's big of a limb to go out on, but I'm going to state it here for the show. 2-1-1. There we go. Dalton has very little faith in our defense. 2 sacks, 1 interception, 2 sacks. No idea about the others. 4-1-1, 2 sacks. There we go. Throws 1 in INT. Very confident in his boys. What is this? I don't know. I just got a little thing pop up on my screen. 4 sacks, 313 edits says. Okay, I'm going to say probably only about 2 sacks. I do think Auburn will be able to get the quarterback some, just not enough. I will predict that there will be some weird fumble situation. I think we've got enough hard hitters, heavy hitters. You were talking a little bit earlier about Jaron Thompson maybe coming up and supporting the run. If he comes up and pops someone real good, he could pop it out. I think there will be a fumble. I get the sense that Carson Beck is going to have a much better statistically, like, ratio wise game than he did. Even if it's just 2 touchdown passes and no interceptions, you got to think that this is going to be a bounce back day for him as a quarterback when you're in the confines of in Athens, Sanford Stadium. I just don't see a lot of that playing into our favor there. All right. Last one for defense. We got to hustle. Last one for defense. How many defensive touchdowns, if any, will Auburn have in this game? None this season so far? Yes, that's correct. Anyone. Now, if Auburn can get one, maybe you pick off Carson Beck. I just said probably not going to happen. There's a pick 6 right there. Can you pick up a fumble, run it back? If Auburn can push Georgia back where they've had very little success into that 70 to 80 yard and having to make a drive range, put some pressure on the quarterback. You never know what might happen. Maybe there's a mishandle of a handoff. I don't think it's going to happen. And you said put the ball on the ground and gotten lucky so far this year. Well, maybe it's time for that luck to run out. 1 pick 6 is the only prediction that we got. Okay. So there you go. That's defense. Special teams. Let's run through it real quick. This is an important factor in this game. How many punts will Auburn have in this game? Keep in mind, even if we are punting a lot, we have one of the best punters in the land. We are one of 3 teams to have a negative return yardage allowed on punts. Part of that is coverage. Part of that is the punter. But how many punts will Auburn have in this game? Lost track. Okay, I think this is where it began. 3, 5, 4, 4, 3, 6 punts. Tim is not feeling this game at all. Neither is Dalton. I don't tend to disagree with that too much. If we get 6 punts, we lose the game, period. I think for Auburn to win this game, they've got to have 3 or less punts. I'm just feeling it out, to be honest with you. 6 punts in this game, but that could be likely it. I'll predict 5, just because I want to be a little bit more optimistic than some of our people in our Georgia person is. But I just wanted to. I'll say 5. Sorry. Still working off the last bit of that. Whatever I had the last week. How many field goals attempted and made? Now, I know this is a big, actually, question mark for a lot of people because who's going to start? Alex McPherson, the original starter, who's been out with that gastrointestinal issue all season so far. He's probable, it said, on the injury list. I still wouldn't think he starts. So I'm just going to operate if it's Towns Magoo, who did not have a great game last one. How many attempted? How many made? I think he's probably, as a kicker, former kicker, going to be a little bit rattled just being there, but just based off what happened last game. My hope is that we don't have to put him into very many compromising situations. What do I mean by that? 40 yards or less. I think he will have to make some field goals for us to win the game. And I do think regardless if we win or not, he will make at least 1. I'm going to say 1 out of 2, because even though I'm telling you that we need to keep him out of those situations, we're going to put him into those situations. So I think that missed one will be beyond 40-yard plus 1, in my opinion. Here were y'all's takes on all of that. There's 100%, 100%, 6 of 1. Don't know what that means, but okay. McPherson will be back when he's ready, but for now we need to lend the support for the kid because he's doing the best he can with what he's been given and asked to do as a freshman. All right. I'm going to forego one question just because usually we get the answer. We'll do this last one for the sake of time. Number of penalties and yardage for Auburn. This is like a miscellaneous question. Number of penalties and yardage because of those penalties for Auburn. Number of penalties and the yardage for Auburn. It doesn't matter if it's on offense, if it's on defense. How many penalties will Auburn have on it and the yardage given up? Dalton said, oh boy. We have been a very heavily penalized team, whether that has been rightly or wrongly. That is up for debate. But I think your Unbeaten Lake's kind of talking about it here. There's going to be some false starts. There's probably going to be an emotional situation in this game. So much rivalry, so much connective tissue between the teams, a lot of similar recruits. It's probably going to be a personal foul, at least on Auburn's side. There's probably going to be, a pass interference on Auburn's side, home cooking type of thing. So I think you're definitely pushing somewhere into the 60, yardage range in terms of penalties, whatever that makeup is. I'm going to say like 4 and 60 is what I will say for that. And that's probably being way, way, way too conservative about that. There you go. Prediction right there. 6 and 65. All right. We have talked about offense. We have talked about defense. We have talked about special teams. We also gave you information before, and we've also given you, just things around the game, the history of it all. Now it's time for you folks. What is your score prediction? Try to think about what we talked about throughout all of the different scenarios. Try to come up with a more well-rounded and not just an arbitrary this and this. What is your score prediction? Auburn versus Georgia in Athens, the 129th meeting of the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Next door neighbors and states, sharing recruits, sharing highways and byways, time zone, not time zones, but it might as well be as close as Auburn is to the state line. What is your score and your person who's winning the game? Anybody want to pick Auburn? Excuse me. Oh my goodness. I love that we still have optimism out there. I really do. That's why I love our crew here, because we find some things to be I wonder how many times we'll be called for OPI, this offensive pass interference. Well, we're going to hope several times. Where are we at here? Okay. 31-14. Georgia, long ride home. 31-14. Here's what I said. I think a blowout is anything above 2 touchdown lead. That is above a 2 touchdown lead. But if that's what we walk out with, given what we currently know about this team, its deficiencies, stuff like that, I'm okay with that. This is where we start making more blowout. 5. Okay, I think that's a little delayed one. 40. We got a 1 prediction for Auburn, which Auburn can score. Can they score against Georgia is the key. 35-14, 38-17. I would consider that a blowout, a significant win. 35-7. We don't break more than 1 touchdown again. A little bit of hyperbole there, but we'll break more than 1 touchdown again. But I understand the feeling for that. We got a prediction for Auburn. Another one for Auburn. We got some orange and blue glasses in the house over here. I'm seeing a common thread here of low, mid, and some high, but we'll say mid-30s for Georgia. And I'm seeing mid-20s for Auburn, if you kind of average some of these together just based off people's opinions of it. Here, let me just talk through it a little real quick. Just bear with me here. Let me talk myself through it. I did predict 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns and a field goal, which would lend itself to 31 points. Don't think we're going to score 31 points. So I'm going to remove one of those touchdowns. I do think we'll pass for at least that. I'm going to say Auburn scores 20 points. And I think Georgia probably hits 35. I'm going to say Georgia just has 5 touchdowns flat. Maybe misses the field goal. I don't know. 35-20.
just outside of what I would have called a significant, like if Auburn, I said I'd be happy if Auburn only was beat by 2 touchdowns. That would be 15 point. No, yes, 15 points. So for that, that'll be my score: 35-20. Georgia wins the Deep South's oldest rivalry and evens the series up in Athens officially. Good thought here. I love this game every year and spoke highly of Auburn in this game the last 2 nights on my shows. I have no doubt in that. Listen, Auburn is a sleeping giant that is waiting to be awoken. Let's hope that you motivated us by making this your homecoming game even before you knew the struggles were actually realized. That is bulletin board material. However, we also have to operate in the world of reality and not just emotions and feel goods and all that stuff. I hope we will see, but I have a feeling that our post-game show on Saturday, it'll be night at that point, will be more of a therapy than a celebration. But I certainly hope that it is the opposite of that case. All right, I can take a few more comments and questions. We went a little bit longer on that part of the show. I'd like to leave some room for Q&A. Post it right now, and then we'll come back to it here in a second. Let me give you a couple reminders. What's coming up next? You guys know the drill, right? We got to plug as content creators. Post-game show, as I said, right after the game. You don't have to worry about what time is it actually happening. I've set it as a time, but it will go live minutes after the game ends, right here on YouTube for therapy or celebration, but post-game reactions to the stats, the things that we saw, all those things. Be here with us on YouTube if you can. We also have our normally scheduled live stream of the Auburn Experience podcast Sunday at 9 Eastern time with Austin and myself. And I hope you guys can join us for that. It's always a good time. We'll certainly talk about the Georgia game, but we will also talk about the whole Auburn experience. Lots of good things to talk about in that. And of course, back Wednesday for our live call-in show, which will be on a bye week. And we'll all be maybe hopefully a little bit settled and taking a break from all of this during that time. So that's our normally scheduled program. Stay tuned, stay subscribed. We got lots of other content that'll be coming out over the next couple of days across YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever, all that good stuff. You guys know the drill. Look at the description link here on YouTube for ways that you can connect, ways that you can support, all those good things. I'm going to give a shout out to Stan. I think he's still here, coming a new Conquer Club member, helping keep the lights on here. Literally, that new light's back there because of you. That's actually because I found it and we weren't using it yet. But anyway, you guys do help keep the lights on, so thank you so much for that. All right, final thoughts, questions, derogatory rebuttals. WT got disconnected because you said Auburn was going to win the game. I'm kidding. But I do appreciate that. We got one more. He in the crib got here a little late, wants to drop his in and give his prediction. Should we expect Auburn to bring the pressure packages, or do you think they can get after Carson with the base package? I think they'll need to bring the pressure package to get after Carson. And I think if we don't, you will have a very disgruntled Auburn fan base. I'm going to be very honest. I haven't watched hardly any Georgia, and I barely watched some of that game. Mainly because y'all were out of it for so long. And then I tuned in just to kind of check and see if it was over with, and lo and behold. So I don't know the state of your offensive line. I will tell you that we've got some very talented pass rushers. Whether we utilize them is going to be the thing for, that. So I hope that we bring the pressure. I think the problem is this: to be successful in Athens, period, but just this year in the context of what we know about this current team of Auburn, you're going to have to take some risk. You're going to have to bring some pressure. You're going to have to roll the dice on offense a little bit. And unfortunately, that's going to also open yourself up for some more opportunities to make more mistakes, which Auburn has been prone to do this season. So it's kind of like that double-edged sword, right? You take it and it works out great. If you don't, it probably hurts you a little bit. So I guess that would be my long-winded answer to that question. We are cooked if we don't bring pressure. I would probably agree with that a little bit. Last time we scored 3 touchdowns in Athens was 2009. One was Damon Howard. I believe he pronounced it Damon, not Desmond. Damon Howard. Desmond Howard is how you pronounce it. Damon Washington. Kick return. God, that throws me back. I watched the UGA Kentucky game and the UGA Bama game. The Kentucky game was eye-opening. I understand what you mean, Neil, but I personally would agree with that. But I think opposite of what you mean. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think that opened, and I already had kind of a higher opinion of Kentucky about Kentucky's potential for this year. I just think we didn't give Kentucky enough credit. Let's see here. They do have a few holes on defense. This is another one of those games where they've got a few more injuries than we do. That one on defense is pretty significant. A lot of people are talking about the linebacker. I forget his name, but here's the reality. There are opportunities. There are holes. There are things that Auburn can grasp onto offensively and defensively to have success here. The reality is, whether this was in Athens, whether this was in Auburn, Auburn is a team that has that small of a margin for mistakes. If they play mistake-free football, they will be in the game. If they make one mistake, as we saw, and there were more mistakes than that, but one mistake could alter the course of it. Two mistakes is just too much. You could probably have one and be okay, but that's about it. Who would an unexpected big game come for Auburn? Who would an unexpected big game come for Auburn on offense? Am I reading that incorrectly? Who would be an unexpected big game come for Auburn offense? Restate that one more time for me. Maybe I'm just not understanding it. If Alabama can beat them, we can beat them. I think you might have a little bit low opinion of Alabama. Let's see. I believe we go into Athens playing hard physical defense and pull out with an upset. Love the optimism. I love it. Putting the wet blanket on everything. 2005 was the last time. Who's going to have a big day for Auburn that I wouldn't expect? There we go. Offensively. That you would not expect? Well, then that's got to take off. Malcolm Simmons is the easy answer. Now, you might look at the stats. I don't know if you've been looking at those. And you see that he's risen up, as we kind of talked about earlier in the show, as like some of the leading receivers. But he's a guy that definitely has gotten more opportunities and taken advantage of those, no matter where, if he just gets on the field. So offensively, I'd say Malcolm Simmons right now is the guy that if he has a big day alongside KLS, alongside maybe, who you wouldn't expect this season, who you thought you would be able to? Rivaldo Fairweather. I'm going to put it, you know what? I'm going to make a hot take here. If Rivaldo Fairweather, our tight end, who we all expected to be doing a lot more this season, scores 2 touchdowns in this game, we're going to win. Take that to the bank. If Rivaldo Weather gets utilized at the tight end position the way he should be, and he actually catches the ball as well, we win the game. That's my hot take. Cobb is a good one too. Just want to keep it close. There you go. All right, folks, a little bit over our normal time here, but thank you guys so much for hanging out. Glad to see we had some Georgia discourse in here as well. He's always a good one to check out for your interest in any Georgia sports that you got. So please do over there and check him out. And like I said, I meant to have him on this last year. It's just, or this for this week, but it's just been one of those years of trying to just catch up. Anyway, thanks for being here. We've done our preview. We've done our prediction show. You guys have been great, and I appreciate you hanging out with me and spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle, beat the dogs.